Hey, what's up, people? This is Sports Debate Tuesday. This episode is brought to you by Beach Volleyball National Events. BVNE, the biggest, greatest get noticed showcase in the United States of America. Tell your mother, tell your father, send a telegram. You want to get noticed? We have as many as 22 to 25 NCAA sand volleyball coaches coming to the exhibition. BVNE, Beach Volleyball National Events, a family that plays together, stays together. It's also brought to you by NY Varsity Sports. That's me. That's me, the NYV. Looking to get your video broken down, looking for things that you like and for things that need to get better? Come to me. I break down your tape. The difference between me and other people that break down your tape is I win all the time. I get tired of winning. NY Varsity Sports, watching me, watching you. This is episode 40, Rob McLean. I got Rob McLean, and the episode starts right now. Step into a world where there's no one left but the very best. No MC can test. Rob, yes, y'all, we don't stop. Episode 40, along with Rob, keeping McLean. I am Jason DeBias. This is Sports Debate Tuesday. Before I go any further, how you doing? What's up?
Doing great, man. How you doing?
We getting right. That's how we doing. We getting right. So, got a lot to cover today. We have the NFL. We want to know how what everyone thinks about Tua's debut. Or not debut. His debut was last week. Threw a couple of balls, earned him the starting position. This is still a little disappointed in that. Which first-year quarterback has impressed you the most in this midpoint of the season or near midpoint of the season? Going into week 9, we're going to talk about the UFC. Anderson Silva gets KO'd by or TKO'd by Uriah Hall. Most likely is going to retire. Dana is going to make him. Of course, we're going to have our segment of Too Shame or Not Too Shame. We're going to have, we're going to have a quick question, but first things first, Rob. We have to do the most important thing we're doing because we are in football season. We have to talk about the NFL Pick 6. We are entering week 9, but before we enter week 9, let's view the results from week 8. Travis Meerwetter, thank you for participating. You are the man. You are a genius because you are left-handed. Travis Meerwetter is the writer for Volleyball Magazine. He's a color commentator. He covered a lot of SEC for football, so he knows his football. And this week broke off even at 3-3. Rob McLean, you are also 3-3. I, yours truly, am a dominant 1-5. That makes our cumulative win-loss record. Rob, you're 23-17-1. I am 17-23-1. I am your anti-Rob, if you will. And Travis Meerwetter, congratulations. You represent the slew of guests, and all of the guests are combined still ahead, 25-15-1. So, Rob McLean, we got a guest every week, and we try to get a little volleyball players to be our guest because that's our wheelhouse and that moves the needle for our followers, and we're loyal to our volleyball people always. And this week, 3-time Olympian, Olympic gold medalist, Ryan Millar has entered his picks into the scene. And ready? Here we go. Rob McLean, the first game of the Pick 6. The Packers are visiting the San Francisco 49ers. Who you got, brother?
I'm going to go with the Packers here. I think they bring back from last week.
Yeah, the Packers, you never really see them lose 2 in a row, particularly with when they have a really well-coached team, when they have a decent running game. I thought Jamal Williams was a great super sub for Aaron Jones. Devontae Adams was a fantasy monster, I know, because I had him. And as you can tell, as per our discussion before we got on the podcast, I needed him. I'm going to go with the Packers, and I strongly believe that Ryan Millar is also going to go with the Packers. Actually, let's put him in the middle. There you go. Yeah, all right. I got it. Fixing this is what happens when I tech my own show, people. All right. So next game, we have the Ravens visiting the Indianapolis Colts. I'll go first on this one. Ravens lost at home. Didn't like it. The Colts are significantly better with Phil Rivers, and their running back, guy whose name escapes me, I can't believe him. I have him on fantasy, has been setting the world on fire because bursting with these good runs. But I think I trust Lamar Jackson more than I trust Phil Rivers. Phil Rivers can be old man Rivers, or he can be beat the world Rivers. I do not trust that man, and I'm going with the Ravens. Who you got, Rob?
Yeah, I think after a tough fought one by the Ravens this past week, I think they come again just ready to not dominate a team, but bring their best. And I think the Ravens beat them on the best day.
Cool. And Ryan Millar sees something we don't. He's going with the Colts. Okay. We got game number 3, Rob. We have the Bears visiting the Tennessee Titans.
Both had pretty bad weeks last week. I like the Tennessee Titans. I just like their receiving core. I like, how Ryan Tannehill's, I just like the way he's playing football. Obviously Derrick Henry. I'm not really a big fan of what's going on with the Bears right now. So I'm going to go with the Titans.
1, 2. Tell me, who are you? The Bears. 3, 4. The Bears. To hell with them this week, okay? I was all down with Nick Foles last week. I was like, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Foles, but I found out Foles gold is fool's gold. Fool's gold is Foles gold. I'm going with the Titans on this. And Ryan Millar, I think, is going to co-sign with us. He's going to go with the Titans. Ryan Millar, good job, buddy. All right, we have game number 4. The Seattle Seahawks visiting the Buffalo Bills. I believe I go... No, you go first on this one, right? No, Seahawks, I go first.
You got it, yeah.
Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey. Let's go, Buffalo. Let's go, Buffalo. Yo, Buffalo is going to have to be magnificent to play this game. I think they learned a lot from losing to Kansas City and capitalizing on penalties. I think Seattle is not a very good road team, and I know it's going to be tight, and every person on this planet is going to pick the Seahawks, but I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I'm probably going to go with the Seattle Seahawks. I just love what they got with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, man. I mean, Chris Carson, and everything they got there. I really love what they're doing. So sad they didn't come out to win this past week. Yeah. I think they're begging for a win this week.
Well, any given Sunday you want to pick Russell Wilson over Allen. I get that. I mean, we're gonna, as we see Ryan's pick. Ryan, I think, is going to go with the Seahawks as well. He even gave me a score, 28-17, which I guess sounds logical. Their defense got better and this and that, and we both know why I'm picking the Bills. There's no, my pick doesn't follow any real logic. I'm just a prisoner of the moment. I was right.
You sang the song, so.
Yeah, well, I was right 6 out of 8 times about him, but I was also right a bunch of times with Seattle too, so. Listen, I need to catch up, so if I got to take a hot L to risk catching up to you guys, I will. Game number 5, the Miami Dolphins, visiting the Arizona Cardinals.
Oof. I think this is going to be amazing to see what Tua is about, but definitely not going to pick against the Arizona Cardinals. Absolutely not.
I got to go with the Cardinals, too. I'm going with the Cardinals too. I think he didn't. His numbers weren't exactly setting the world on fire, but he didn't. But I guess he didn't need to. And Coach Flores said, "Hey, listen, there's some games where he just doesn't have to beat himself. Our defense and our special teams are going to do a good job." Big up, by the way, to the defense and special teams. Came up with a score apiece. So you look at their 4 scores, right? Defensive touchdown, special teams, punt return, running play, and then Tua passed one. So those are, I think, their four scores or whatever. I think they got to 31 points.
Hmm.
Yeah, I like Tua, but and he took a really hard hit from Aaron Donald.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm going with the Cardinals on this one. And Ryan Millar, who do you got, buddy? Let's go on Ryan. Ryan shouts, Dolphins. Dolphins by 3. Ryan
Hmm.
Millar says 24-21. Our last game of the week for the Pick Six is the New Orleans Saints facing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh, when the Saints come marching in. Oh, when the Saints come marching in. You know they beat the Bucks the first time, but it ain't gonna happen this time. Didn't rhyme. Got the
Tried.
Bucks. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm with the Bucks. I mean, they're definitely firing all cylinders, and the Saints just seem like they can't really do. They can only do enough to beat some average teams, and then the best teams they kind of falter to. So,
Yeah.
Bucks for me.
Yeah, Bruce Arians is a hard coach to beat twice, right? So, and Ryan Millar co-signs with us. He says the Bucks 34-31.
Chee-hoo.
And that's cool. That concludes our segment of the NFL Pick Six. And while we're still on the subject of the NFL, you and I, in the beginning of the NFL season, had a great conversation about some of these first-round draft picks and about some of these first-year quarterbacks. And I believe people like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen have spoiled us rotten, right? I mean, Josh Allen, strong arm, good running legs. Is he for real? Yeah, 6-2 is for real. Lamar Jackson, some experts was like he should be recruited as a receiver. No, he decided to stand his ground. 14-2 record. He's for real. Patrick Mahomes, second year, first year as a starter, regular season MVP. Second year as a starter, Super Bowl champ. So they've set this standard where they have spoiled us rotten to the core, Rob McLean. So with that being said, this next wave of quarterbacks, which quarterback in this midseason to date has impressed you thus far?
Yeah. So for me, I think it's the kid from Oregon, Justin Herbert, on the LA Chargers. Yeah, for me, I was not expecting what he's been able to do. I didn't think anybody was going to expect him to play this year. I think he was, if any of the quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round were expected to be a project, he was it. Especially going to a team that's ready to plug and play a quarterback. But what he's done with that team, although they haven't been winning games, which is crazy to me because they've been scoring 30, 25 plus.
Yeah, remember the hook and ladder?
Game. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
doing
if
all
that
these
guy
new
catches the
plays
ball, they would have won. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just crazy to me that this guy is that big, 6'5", 220, 230. He runs the ball well. He's known for running the ball well, but man, he's got a great arm. He doesn't make mistakes. I don't think he reads the field that great, but I think he doesn't make mistakes. So he takes the easy option, and he wants to beat you with his legs, or he understands he can beat people with his legs. So he's got a true dual quarterback aspect going on. But talking about all these quarterbacks together, I still don't think, even Tua, even Burrow, I still don't see them having the high ceiling, the superstar level high ceiling. I thought Joe Burrow might have been that guy coming in. I thought Tua might have been that guy, from when I first heard about him in like 2015. But just from the way it looks like, when you look at a guy like Patrick Mahomes, when you look like a guy like even Josh Allen, they're not only franchise changers, but culture changers. And I just don't see that type of culture change coming from a Tua, who's a little bit more of a quiet leader. And then Joe Burrow, who's, again, maybe a bit more fiery, but there's just something about him where he has to be on all cylinders to be his very best. He can't have an okay day and put out great numbers. Talking about Joe Burrow, everything's got to be clicking where receivers, everything. So for me, I think Herbert has been the most impressive because he didn't have any type of expectations, and he's beating everybody else's expectations for the other better quarterbacks. So, yeah, I definitely think Herbert has definitely not only just got me excited about watching the Chargers again, but impressed me the most.
Um, Rob, keep him McLean. McLean. For all the reasons you said, Justin Herbert, I go with Burrow. So many similarities the way these guys come into the scene. Both have a strong arm, both mentally tough, both are not frail quarterbacks, and both quarterbacks' record really doesn't show what they are. They were one or two plays from having a winning season, and instead they have a losing season. I mean, if you look at the Chargers just this last week alone and previous weeks where, next gen stats said he had a 90% chance of winning at this time and this 0.2% chance of losing and he loses. It's happened to Herbert 3 times. So the biggest difference that I think makes Burrow my favorite more than Herbert is Herbert, no one saw it coming. Herbert wasn't even supposed to start. Tyrod Taylor was supposed to start at quarterback. And when Taylor got hurt by his own trainer, I think, in comes Herbert, just literally lighting it up with this ridiculously strong arm. Everybody's like, oh, his arm's not going to translate to the NFL. The receivers may move so much more faster. Let me tell you something. Ooh, that boy can throw. Now, with Burrow, he comes in the national champion. He comes in as a Heisman candidate, if not the winner. And everybody's like, I want a piece of that dude. I can't wait till I play that dude. I'm licking my chops. I want to lay one on a Heisman winning quarterback who if he even dreams of coming into the NFL and making an impact, he better wake up and apologize. So Joe has all of that sauce coming at him. Not bad sauce, just competitive sauce. And the way he's responded, I'm so impressed. And I love the conversation because there's a debate to be had, but at the end, who the hell's even wrong? Who the hell's even wrong about this debate? No one. All right? I mean, I think next year is going to say a lot. And this year, they are who we thought they were. They're decent quarterbacks on rebuilding teams, right? Cincinnati, pretty much clean house. The Chargers had some injuries in key positions before the season started. For anyone that watched the HBO Hard Knocks can give you more of an insight on that because they had both teams at the same time on Hard Knocks, both LA teams. Whereas, the previous Hard Knocks, it was just one team.
Just one per city, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, yours is Herbert, mine is Burrow, and the winners are the fans. I thoroughly enjoy watching Cincinnati play. I never thought I'd hear the day I'd say that to myself. I love watching Cincinnati play. I mean,
I do too.
Look, as a New Yorker, right? You're a Giants and Jets guy or whatever, and man, you got to get your inspiration somewhere. And mine,
I just think, for the Giants too, like Giants or Jet fan, being from New York, you appreciate not only good football, being that they're those good football teams, or good football cultures, I should say. But you respect good quarterback play. I mean, between the Giants and the Jets, there's been 2 good quarterbacks in the entire franchise of both of them.
Huh.
There's been Phil Simms and there's been Eli Manning. And that's it. I'm sorry. Like, I don't really see any other quarterbacks that are great. Even those two.
Even Joe Namath, I mean,
but again, it's a different time. I think he was one of the greatest leaders ever. But look at the score of that game. It was, 12-7 or 12-9?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man. That's not a quarterback leading you from great quarterback play to a Super Bowl.
Come on.
It's a great team.
Eli was 17-14, but
I that's what I'm saying. I'm not even saying Eli is great.
You're right.
Just saying he's got Super Bowl rings. He did it at some time.
An MVP. I can't even do that twice. I got lucky. For anyone listening to the audio, I did something, and never mind. All right, so finishing over football, I got one more question, and a lot of it we're going to cover the NFL on quick question because that's the only thing that existed. Maybe we'll do our Dodgers thing at the end, maybe a kudos thing at the end. Tua. Threw a couple of balls last week, looked sharp. Flores made a command decision that I disagreed with, but all at the same time understood why. Like, if you draft him the first round, you got to see if he's your man. Now's the time to see if he's your man. And I
But
and
in
I
the bye season, the bye week, you made that
yeah.
decision. A little
Yeah,
skeptical.
I don't love that. I don't love that. And I mean, and it was the first time, like I said, Fitzpatrick was playing as if he didn't have a contract. And they were
Playing well.
following him, and the receivers celebrated with him, and the offensive line men were giving him big hugs. And now they're out there protecting him, and now they're out there starting fights if you hit your quarterback. And I
But
hope they do the same for Tua.
but you know what that sounds like though? That sounds like a backup quarterback. I'm
Fitz,
sorry. That
right? Yeah,
sounds like a backup. You don't like. You got to at least
career
act
backup.
like you've done it before.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
career backup.
That's
You're
that's
right.
all. I mean, I've always loved Ryan Fitzpatrick. Not to segue, but I've always loved Ryan Fitzpatrick. But for me, he's just like a lot of these journeyman quarterbacks. Nick Foles was that journeyman quarterback for a long time. I'm not
He's a
saying they
jag. Yeah,
can't play at a high caliber level, but you know,
he's a jag. Just a guy.
just a
So
guy.
so what'd you think? His debut. What did his debut say anything about him?
Really sharp on the underneath medium length routes. He throws a really pretty ball, which receivers love. They love to catch it in stride and keep going. I mean, there's not much you can see. I mean, look at what Lamar Jackson did his first year. Look at what Baker Mayfield did in his first year. Look what Kyler Murray did in his first year. Look what Patrick Mahomes did in his first year. I mean, this first small stint that he had. It's very difficult to not only be on the same speed and the same page as the players, the defense around you, but of your own players, your own timings. Do I got to throw the ball a little harder? Do I got to leave it lofty a little bit more? What I see, is that really what I see, or am I still in the college days? So for him to not only go out and win, maybe he galvanized his team with good quarterback play. Maybe his team just, his defense played well. But they won. That's it. Like they won against one of the best defensive players in the league. They won against one of the smartest offensive coaches in the league. And they won against a team with over a 500 record. So, yes, I get it's in Miami. Yes, LA had to fly all the way from LA. But
Yeah.
I'll take wins, and I always, for some reason, whether Miami was good or bad, they've always played tough. It's just, I don't know what it is, but they've always been a tough team to play against. So I love that they finally have a quarterback that they can build around. And I love, same thing I would say for the Cincinnati Bengals. I can't wait to watch the next game of the Miami Dolphins. I don't think I'd ever think I'd say that in my life.
Yeah.
So
Look, Brian Flores, head coach Flores, that boy could coach. That dude could coach. He's young, he's energetic, and he brings almost a college-type atmosphere into professional sports that galvanizes his team to go out and play. And you'd never see them take a playoff, even when they didn't have talent. And we thought they were going to go 0-16 last year and wind up winning 5 games or something like that. Beating the Patriots at the end, too, and knocking the Patriots out of their bye week. Subsequently, they lost to the Titans, on an interception return for a touchdown. But that started with this team that was like, listen, we're not your setup guy. We're not your Palooka, dude. So Tua, like I said, I saw a very small sample size, and I didn't see anything differently than I saw him do in Alabama. I thought it was very Nick Saban-like. Nick Saban likes to run the ball. Flores ran the ball. Nick Saban coaches good defense. Miami had good defense. They scored on a fumble return for a touchdown. They scored on a kickoff return for a touchdown. I consider special teams defense anyway. So it's one of those things where all he really had to do was not beat himself, and if it's someone's open, throw a touchdown pass, and that's exactly what he did. If you look at his numbers, they're not even that. Of course, they're not gaudy. He only had 12 completions, and those 12 completions resulted in 93 yards, 93 yards passing. And Flores said at the post game, hey, there's going to be a time where I'm going to need him to throw, and when that time comes, and that's why I think he's a match for this team. He's playing to his limitations. He knows when not to beat himself, and that's mature beyond your years for a rookie, right? Should we even say Dallas Cowboys this week? No, we're not, except for me to say it this one time. And with that being said, no, of course I didn't see a lot because he wasn't required to show a lot. So I need to see more. But so far, given the sample size, yeah, I like it. I'm not taking I'm not going to throw a ticker tape parade, like everybody else. It made national news. This guy won a game. I'm like, relax, relax, but no, but
on
it's,
top of that,
it's all
their
positive,
team
right?
is,
How many quarterbacks
yeah,
would lose that game or find ways to
a
lose that
lot.
game?
I mean, what, 4 teams this season?
There's 64 quarterbacks, and there's 10 quarterbacks, probably all backups, and maybe one starter that can find a way to lose that game. So,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and not even to mention, Miami's lack of talent. They're just lacking in talent and in the places that they can lack talent, but their offensive, defensive line, not too shabby. But their skill players is obviously who they need more help. And as a quarterback, there's so many things that go into making a quarterback better. And that's why I'm just taking what he did from, the areas of what he had to work with. But 12 attempts, I don't know. That seems a little suspect to me. Over an entire game, 12 attempts for a starting quarterback.
Well, that's the coach. That's the coach and the offensive coordinator.
I
mean,
get
Garoppolo got to a Super Bowl. If you remember, there was a series they ran the ball 22 straight times.
Right, and I'm down with that, but
Yeah.
that was them putting it on them. It wasn't
Wow,
like,
yeah.
3 possessions where, we really didn't do anything. And then, because look, even if they
It really
did win,
was.
or if they're, defensively they scored, right? We take away those 2 touchdowns, it's 14-10. You know what I mean? That's a really tight game. And I don't think they should have done any more than they had, but you can give them some more attempts. You can have them on a quick slant route and then run the ball 3 times. You can make first downs. You can, take away the time on the clock for the other team. That just means to me that he wasn't effective enough, or that the coach didn't have confidence enough to gain a first down. I get running the clock down, chewing the clock down, but you still got to make first downs.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, when you're ahead that much, too, maybe the game plan change in that respect, too, right? When you get a whole bunch of turn downs and find yourself up by 15 plus, like more than 2 scores. Yeah, I get that. All right.
And that's what I mean. The game slows down, but they, you don't want to become that team that, you go up, you don't play, because they're not really that good of a team. They should be the ones that be trying to blow out people and put as many points in the board and start feeling confident and comfortable.
Well, they do get to play the Jets again, so I mean, there are definitely confidence builder games.
Hopefully, good things happen.
Yeah, that's going to be one of our quick question things. Hey, let's move on really quickly to mixed martial arts. A small event this weekend with a big main event. Uriah Hall defeated UFC legend, one of the greatest fighters of all time. Certainly one of my top 3 or top 4 GOATs, greatest of all times. Anderson Silva, TKO in the 4th round. Anderson Silva, I'd like to go first because the question is, our reflection is on what do you think Anderson Silva's legacy is? Anderson Silva's legacy is exactly what this match was. He was past his prime and still trying to find ways to win. I don't know if people are ignoring this because sometimes you just remember who got knocked out or who got TKO'd. Anderson was leading on the scorecards all 4 rounds until he got stopped. He was pointing, and it's a very difficult fight to watch because you got 2 counter strikers, and sometimes 2 counter strikers are waiting for the other guys to get off, and like a whole minute goes by and no one engaged, and then you're starting to piss me off. I'm watching this, I'm on my time right now. But then
when they do.
Yeah. So Anderson Silva, the thing I liked about him that's never talked about because he doesn't talk about it like other fighters. Conor McGregor thumps his chest. Any fighter, anytime, anywhere. This guy, anytime, any fighter, anytime, anywhere. You got those champions or those certain kind of fighters, Israel, that thump their chest. Anderson Silva was an any fighter, anytime, anywhere, and it's totally ignored because he didn't feel he was required to say it. This is a guy who defends his title, moves up to 205 pounds to fight James Irwin, moves up to 205 pounds to fight Forrest Griffin, from who was one match removed from winning the title. Moves up to 205 to fight Stephon Bonner. Moves up to 205 with 3 days notice to fight Daniel Cormier because John Jones had a D pill. Peed hot for a D pill. I'm trying not to say dick, okay? So anyone, any place, anytime. And the finishes are what we're always going to remember him for, right? I mean, Vitor Belfort, karate kick, front kick. Forrest Griffin, move back, jab. At the right place, right part of the chin, plop. Stephon Bonner, back against the cage. Bonner swings at him 4 times. Whoosh, whoosh. Missed. Pop, pop, pop. He was amazing. And I think he invented the term living in the matrix as it applies to mixed martial arts. So even if he wants to fight again, it's not going to be in the UFC because Dana already said it ain't going to happen. It's just, Dana's a friend and Dana says it hurts him too much to see him like this. And I guess as to the question of what we think about his legacy, because if fighters stick around too long and they start losing matches at the end, for some reason people think it demotes their GOAT status. And unfortunately, they're right. Like how you choose to go out is almost just as a percentage as high or lower, high, maybe 5 points give or take, than how you navigated your whole career. So he's not the greatest of all time, but he's on the GOAT list. He's top 4 in my opinion. UFC, Pride, definitely Bellator, whatever. Floor is yours.
Yeah, so if we're talking about his legacy within the UFC, I obviously I completely agree with you. It was completely past his prime, even when he first got into the UFC. That's what I don't think people really understand.
He was already like lower 30s, right?
Yeah. And that's when you're Brazilian, and I'm not saying like I know it's for every Brazilian, but most fighters start at a very, very young age. So when he says he's not sure if this is his last fight because it's the air, like fighting is the air that he breathes, he really means that, because from a very, very long time, think about it, he's 46 now. If he would have started at 10 years old, that's 36 years of combat fighting.
Good
right?
grief, dude.
And that's more than my lifetime. He's been in the ring, in fighting, understanding it, growing, learning. So I don't know who he's fought. I don't know what he did before he got to the UFC, but all of that coming to the culmination of who he was in the UFC, for me, he's the GOAT, and not only for what he did on the, in the octagon, but also for me, he's like the Michael Jordan of UFC in the sense that he grew people's want for the sport to such an extent. And it wasn't really even because of his fighting. Like he was the Conor McGregor, he was the promotion person without promoting himself before it ever even happened. Like a lot of these guys can sell fights without even talking, without going out there and doing all the media and stuff. He started all that. There was Chuckman before, and, Tito Ortiz, and there were some really nice, really, well-known fighters. But when it comes to Anderson Silva, not only did his record, how many championships he had, as well as how he did it, very loose, very fun to watch. But he did it for such a long time after he had already done it for such a long time. Yeah. And did it against the very best, took out the very best. It's just, for me, the only time he started losing was, like you're saying, is when he got older, as we're seeing right now. And do I think it tarnishes his legacy? In the UFC, possibly, in the short term. But for me, the end of your career is only about that short term, right? Because, we're talking about a legacy, so I understand, sure, maybe the last couple of years it was tough to watch, but he gave 15, 20 years of amazing martial arts. And I think over average, you won't even remember the last things because they're not as fun to watch because we know what he was and what he is. And we want to see that. And that's why Dana's saying, he doesn't want to see that again. But that's not really Dana's call, no offense. And that's why he can go and fight in Pride. And he can go fight in even K1.
Silva still has a fight on one fight left on a contract, so Dana would have to release some of that. And I don't think Dana's will be a dick about that. I think.
But the thing is it's just mixing business and pleasure.
Right.
It would make a lot more sense if he didn't say he was my friend.
Right.
But the fact now that he said, "Oh, well, I'm doing this because Anderson's my friend and I can't see that anymore," that's your problem.
Chuck, yeah.
That's not Anderson Silva's problem. His issue is I have to, leave something that's been has been what people explain me as, before they even meet me. I have to leave that behind. You're not there. You'll probably never be there in the sport. And talking to Dana White, you'll probably never be in that position until very late in your life. Because you're not doing a physical activity. And that's not where you get your, your life breaths from. So.
I think
for me, I think it's a little outside of Dana's realm to say that.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it, and I think he appreciates it well. But it's up to Anderson Silva, and I think that honestly, I would love to see him fight another time because it's just I feel like he's been doing this so many times that he's been trying to fight to finish on a good note. Because he's had such a career.
He wants to finish with a win.
Yeah, and it's just like
this could have been it,
and
Rob.
then it happened again.
This weekend could have so been it. He was ahead.
It could have been it.
Anyone watching that fight, guys, he was ahead on the scorecards. And I think Chael deserves some credit there too, because in order to move the needle and get people interested, sometimes you need a bad guy, that antagonist or that nemesis to bring out the best in you. And that was fight of the year. And Chael ended up testing positive for elevated TRT or whatever. But that was fight. The first fight where Chael was up 4-0, and then Chael slapped, and then Silva slapped on that triangle choke. That was one of the best fights of the year. That was fight of the year. And then the day later is like, wow, glad Chael didn't win. Be a vacant title, but yeah. So Uriah Hall, who I think saved his career in the UFC by winning this fight. Because he loses this fight, and not only does Anderson Silva, like you say, feel good about leaving, I left on a win, maybe this is a good time to hang it up. Dana's like, well, you gone too? Come on, man. You lost to someone that was 45 years old. And Dana's always had a problem with Uriah Hall being gun shy and being too nice to people. What he calls niceness, I call respectful. So I disagree with Dana on that. Who'd be a good fight for Uriah Hall? Do you think maybe Derek Brunson?
Yeah, I think that would be nice because I know Derek Brunson wants to keep proving himself and not necessarily move up the rankings, but, just to prove himself against a guy who, nationally was just seen, is just proven in himself. I think that would be a great fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be. Yeah, so congratulations, Silva. And I don't know. I hope you stay retired. But if he needs to fight again, if he wants to fight again, I mean, right? These, like you said, some people must participate in their own salvation or prove us wrong, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Greg Hardy, victorious over Maurice Green, heavyweight fight. Greg Hardy's right now 6-2, doing really, really well. And finally, for the first time in a post-fight presser, he was pressed about his past, about domestic abuse, and him maintaining his innocence over that. And it's not really a question, Rob. I just want to state my opinion. I thought that he handled the questions very professionally. Like, I think basically it was hinting that it would be easier to just say I did it and say I'm a new man, and do it your way. And then people forgive me and say that, that Greg Hardy back then is not the Greg Hardy now. But he maintains his innocence. And I guess I got to respect him for that. But you brought up something very, very, I'm going to give you the floor because you brought up something about CTE, about brain trauma and playing football, and how, like, we're not trying to be disrespectful, but you look in Greg Hardy's eyes and you're not gonna say it, so I'll say it for you. Something don't look right. Like something. I think a lot of things he's dealing with is internal, and I think it might derive from, I guess, like you said, just these helmet to helmet collisions for years and years and years in the NFL, And me personally, I enjoy watching the guy now because he was raw, and he's this elite athlete that wanted to become an MMA guy, and I'm glad he's found a way to rebound. Even if you hate him, like if he doesn't get to work, he becomes our problem. But no, hell with that. I'm a fan. But talk to me a little bit about, like we were talking in the beginning about CTE and like how I don't even.
Yeah, I just think it's the NFL's like dirty little secret, where they're trying to brush under the rug where what CTE really can cause, where they're trying to save their sport in a sense. You have guys that look like Greg Hardy. You have guys that act like Myles Garrett, who they seem really nice guys. The sport is a violent sport, sure, but they've all done it enough. I played football myself. We've done it enough where you understand the difference between hurting somebody and aggression. And it's not a terrible thing to have aggression. But when you can't control that, and then you go to, there's things that have happened at home. There's a lot of domestic violence disputes. Sometimes the only people that can really challenge other people are your own family members and the people that are the closest to you. And when I look at a guy like Greg Hardy, I look at him as a guy who hasn't fully grasped whether or not, that whole situation happened or not, hasn't grasped like the importance of the situation. Okay, you didn't do it. Even if she's lying, why don't you stand up for people who had to go through that? You know what I'm saying? That would be a route of gaining acceptance, or of I'm innocent, but to disregard, everything that's happening and then to choose to go into a more violent professional career, which again, I have nothing against MMA. I love MMA. I think MMA is safer than football, but it's indefinitely more violent where you're tasked on taking out the person in front of you. That screams violence, and it should be, but not from a guy who came from a domestic dispute, a domestic violence dispute. Saying that it never happened, but yet going into a more violent sport, totally fine. You can do that. But it seems as though the aggression comes past a certain point, past the point of what we were talking about before, impulse, and basically all I'm trying to get to is that I really do believe that, when you look at a guy like Greg Hardy, you look into his eyes, you see how he speaks to people, and you see how aggressive he is on, in the octagon. For me, a lot of these things come from not being able to control your emotions, not being able to control your impulses, like we were talking before. Right. So I love Greg Hardy. I think he's a great MMA fighter, but I think there are terrible things going on underneath the hood. And there's been many sports where this has happened, where they didn't claim it to be martial arts sports, but wrestling, for a long time, a lot of people, Shawn Michaels. I mean, these people have literally killed their family members and then killed themselves.
That was Chris Benoit. Yeah.
Chris Benoit. I believe Shawn Michaels also passed away from that.
No, he's alive. He found Jesus. He found Jesus, and his brain's on a completely different plateau, which I think, honestly, like I'm not a big religious guy, but anyone that's in a religion that says, hey, don't cheat on your wife, don't kill, don't steal, save a day out of the week so we could chill out, I'm okay with.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'm okay with those things. Yeah, so I'm so glad you said that. And for the people listening to this version, Rob and I, we're going to be on our own separate episode of the Option Podcast, where you and me, I'd like us to do a little bit of research on brain trauma, also on violent crimes like serial killing or whatever. And I'd like for the people listening, Rob and I are going to have our episode and we're going to discuss sickness versus evil. And we're going to delve into the science a little bit. And I got some people, from New York, because I worked in a medical practice for 17 years. And maybe we could have someone come on for that. Or maybe we'll just do it on the next episode of Sports Debate Tuesday with a special guest. Me and you could brush up on our research, because this is brain trauma and certain parts of your brain, like a certain cortex or layer of the brain that's supposed to mediate your impulses. If that gets damaged, then your impulses are not mediated, and you're just acting on the first thing that comes to your mind. And that's what brain trauma is. That's what CTE is. Your impulse. Because our dirty little secret, Rob, is we all think something. I just said before the podcast, so someone cuts you off, right? Someone gives you a finger. You tell yourself, I should F that dude up. And if your brain is damaged, what are you gonna do? You're gonna obey your impulses. And so it's about damaged, brain and trauma and all that stuff and CTE. But it's also people are trying to figure out what it does, and I think that's what it does. And I'd like to study up. I think it just gets rid of your mediation of the impulses, because we all have the impulses. We all fly off the handle. Sometimes we all have these demons in our head, and sometimes if you're suffering something else like delusions or if you're schizophrenic and you have that CTE, you're acting on impulses where you think a street might be a street light might be an alien. Pow, 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 pow. So
yeah, and I mean that's in like the most pedestrian cases, and a lot of these cases where there's multiple like very high level amounts of concussions, secondary concussions, you have people that are hearing voices. You have people that are, going into dementia at age 40.
Dude.
You know what I mean? And we don't understand, that's why I was really trying to get to, it's really mental health.
Yep.
If we had any resemblance of trying to figure out mental health on a worldwide level, this probably wouldn't be as big of an issue. But the fact is, this is the very first key to getting into the door of mental health.
Yep.
And it's the only reason it's happening is because it can affect the NFL's bottom line. Honestly, this could destroy the NFL. And this came out, 3, 4, 5 years ago now, but this could destroy the NFL blatantly on the amount of kids that could be hurt with secondary concussions. I mean, aggression, not being able to control your emotions, having to go to counseling for that over many, many years. That's what can come from Pee-wee sports, head-to-head collisions. And I know they're trying to do, heads up, play smart football, and that's great. And I want concussions to go down.
Yeah.
I want football to
and
be
we got a big
violent
education
sport.
as coaches, right? We have to we got to certify every few years, and every course has new updates and new information, and we can as amateurs spread the wealth in that regard. Cool, man. All right, so let's get this part over with. I mean, I really like to shame or not to shame, but maybe the subject matter is just do our 30 seconds part. So for the people listening, this is the portion of our podcast we call to shame or not to shame.
Shame. Shame. Shame. Shame. Shame.
All right, Rob, here we go. To shame or not to shame. Let's hook up our clock. Let's do that. All right, Rob, to shame or not to shame. The Saints and the Bears, Wims and Gardner getting into a scuffle. Actually, in portions of this game. To shame or not to shame? I already know the answer, but let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the shame. Not only the fact that, we're in a pandemic and these guys are trying to stay socially, somewhat socially distanced to each other. So there's no reason to, go after each other and hit each other. You guys are playing football, On the other instance, if this guy really did spit in his face, I would, rather a more immediate reaction as opposed to, 11 minutes later in the game, you go up and rip his mouthpiece out and then punch him in the head twice. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. For me, it's shame, shame, shame. Okay. I mean, it's really easy for me to sit here and say this, but if there's an allegation of someone spitting on someone, if someone spits on me, my impulse. We were talking about mediating impulses. I don't know if I can mediate that one. That's really, really tough. But at the same time, there's so much at stake. You know this is a game that's going to be close. In fact, it was decided by a field goal, and you have to be better because these are decisions that people are trying to make you do the wrong thing so you can get a 15-yard penalty. So, shame, 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 shame a fool. Okay, we'll do this, and we'll do this, and that was our segment of to shame or not to shame, Rob. Now we're going to literally do a lightning round because I think we've been doing 50-minute podcasts every week and we're doing fine. This section of the podcast is called Quick Question. Quick question. Quick question. Tell Miranda to stop that. Question.
He said stop.
Quick question. Will Khabib ever fight again?
Yes, absolutely.
I say no. Quick question. Bill Belichick says the lack of depth on his team is because of the salary cap. Is that true or false?
No, it's because he's got freaking. He and Robert Kraft can't pay people.
And I'm with you. I say false, and it's because they've gotten fined so much for freaking cheating. That's where they're losing their money. Quick question. Will the Jets go 0-16?
Oof. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yes. I say yes. Quick question. Good Bills or bad Patriots over the weekend?
Good Bills. Good Bills.
I go bad Patriots. Cam had a fumble where he could have literally went up a score instead of tied the game.
That was the end of the game, though.
But
Come
that's
on.
to win or lose.
It was a good game either way. I know, but it was a good game either
Yeah.
way. At least they didn't get trounced.
I worry about my Bills all the time. They're 30th in the league in third downs and getting off the field. So it's tough.
What is Ed Oliver been doing? I'm sorry,
know.
we on this, but
We need to have a conversation, right?
Mhm.
Quick question. Can the Washington football team win the NFC East?
I mean, can they? Yes. Will
Look at
they?
the record.
Who? I really hope not. I really hope not.
Just throw this away. They can, and like you said, the answer is no. I think when push comes to shove, the Eagles will win.
Mm-hmm.
Quick question: is Carson Wentz the starting quarterback next year?
For sure. I just don't think there's enough quarterbacks in the league to overtake him.
I say yes. Quick question: who is the better receiver right now, DJ Metcalf or Tariq Hill? Metcalf from the Seahawks or Hill from Kansas City?
For sure, DK Metcalf. Just because, man, they just getting him the ball and he's just striding, dude. Oof.
I go Metcalf because they both show that they can catch up to people. I'm a prisoner of the moment, and I feel like I'm being disrespectful to Hill, but fun conversation. Hill doesn't lose on this either, but I say Metcalf. We have to pick one. All right, we're nearing the end of our podcast, but before we go, I want to give a shout out to my boy Joe Burrow. 249 yards, no sacks, and 2 touchdowns. He's learning on how not to beat himself, and I think some of these close games they were losing, and there was one that ended in a tie, I believe, with the Eagles. He'll do a better job. Big up to Mike Tomlin, career win 140. He is now the leader in career wins all-time NFL for African Americans. He passed Tony Dungy. Tony Dungy has 139, and right now Tomlin is 21 on that list. A long list that was funneled with nothing but white coaches. So that says a lot to be sniffing the outside of the top 20. And you know what? He's going to be in the top 20 because Marv Levy, Buffalo Bills legendary coach and war vet, has 143. And Tomlin at 140, we all know he's going to pass that. Who you got to big up?
Who do I got to big up to?
He's like, nobody.
I don't know, man. I ain't got nobody.
Come on. He's like, we ain't COVID now, Jason. I ain't in the mood.
Yeah, I'm barely talking to people.
All right, so I guess that's all we got then. Cool. Anything you'd like to say before we leave?
Vote.
Yes. Oh, I was waiting for the thanks. Thank you. God bless you. Good night. I was like this, like that caveman, like.
What you gonna say?
Yeah. No, vote. Hey, everybody vote. Listen, for all of you, for those of you that voted by mail, go trackyourvote.org, and Track Your Vote can tell you. You plug in your name, your date of birth, and it can tell you if your vote was received or not. So, if anyone worried that their vote got lost in the mail or still stuck in the mail, go on Track Your Vote, and very secure line. It's a government protected line, and make sure your vote is received. So do that. But for everybody else, I think that's it. I think I had enough. I think I had enough of you. I don't even know if Rob McLean likes you this week, to tell you the truth. But Rob's got love for all. So for everybody at home, for everyone watching this, Starbucks, iPad, iPhone, Droid, desktop, singing Telegram, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. From my boy, Rob. Keep it McLean. This is episode 40, and I'm Jason DeBillius. And I love you guys to pieces. Thank you for supporting the show, man. Big up, and we're out. Come check out the Option Podcast on OptionVB.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify, and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.